This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. This is, well, another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion, but more importantly, this is your daily reminder not to hit the Peter Chiarelli panic button. I know I'm branding that thing. Seriously, this is something Peter Chiarelli should get branded for himself instead of letting me do it, because, ladies and gentlemen, this time last year, well, you know what? The Peter Chiarelli panic button was coming out. And obviously for fair measure, given how things were going. Now, this is a completely different season, completely different set of circumstances, but still familiar themes. And now, of course, we are going to talk about what buttons were hit today. But the familiar themes we're seeing throughout this year is obviously the injuries to start the year, right? Last year, I believe it was Drake Caggiula going down with some injuries at the beginning of last season. Who does that sound like? Kind of sounds like Joakim Nygard to begin this season. And obviously injuries are part of hockey, but guys, especially if you're an Oilers fan, injuries are a part of our realm every single year. Now, what I want to tell you when I'm saying don't hit the Peter Chiarelli panic button is the simple fact that for a few weeks now, we've been missing Nygard, Archibald, and Adam Larsson in our lineup. Well, guys, that's Adam Larsson, technically our top pairing defenseman, right? There you go. That's a pretty big blow. No, regardless of your opinion on him, right? My opinion not so great. Some other people's very high. Well, no matter how you regard him, losing a guy that's worth $4.167 million and sits there and is on your depth chart as your top right-handed defenseman, that's going to hurt. No matter how good Ethan Bear's done, no matter what Matt Benning's done, no matter what anybody's done on the back end for us, that's going to hurt. That we've been missing since game one. Now you think about missing Nygard, we've been missing him for a couple of weeks now, and you think about that speed in the lineup, right? Especially busting it through on zone entries. Now you think about Josh Archibald, who's really that grind line gang kind of guy up there with Sheahan, who's also been missing for 3 or 4 games now since Columbus, right? You'd have games, I guess, against Pittsburgh, Arizona, and St. Louis, so 3 games. And of course the Carolines. So there you go. That's there. And well, guys, we've been missing some pretty big pieces from our lineup. And don't think that we didn't miss Josh Archibald to open up the season. We lost Alex Sheahan for 2 games. Guys, this team has done remarkably well given the circumstances. That's why I'm saying don't hit the panic button, the Peter Chiarelli panic button just yet. Don't blow it up just because something looks ugly in the last few games. Guys, we're 2-1 in our last 5 games. We've scored, you know what, not the most goals, but here's the thing. In games where we have scored goals, we've been effective, and it doesn't necessarily mean we've been losing. So go back to Winnipeg, a 1-0 loss. Guys, that's in a shootout. Winnipeg didn't score either, so perfectly fine. That's a shutout, actually, for Mike Smith. Minnesota, well, again, they stick-checked us to death. They played Minnesota hockey 3-0. Okay, that one sucked. Washington, 4-3. We scored goals. Whip, whip, we win. Florida, probably the biggest stinker so far this season. Detroit, another stinker on top of that. But again, it was just, we didn't show up. 4-1 against Columbus. We were motivated. That's good. And then Pittsburgh, you know what, guys? These are the things. You're not going to win every game 4-0, 4-1. You got to find a way to gut out the small efforts. And a 2-1 overtime victory against Pittsburgh, that, you know what? Sometimes that's what it takes to beat a good team. And you know what? Realistically, good teams beat other good teams that way too. So to hit the panic button there, 3-2 Arizona in overtime. Well, you know what? That one was a tough one, right? That's Arizona stick-checked us to death. And realistically, we didn't have any right being in that game, and we still got a point. And then against St. Louis, guys, that was a 3-2 game that finished 5-2 on 2 empty netters. What are you going to say? We shouldn't have pulled the goalie on the power play to try and grease the goal? Well, what do, right? That's a coaching move, and unfortunately, that's not a unique coaching move to the Edmonton Oilers. That's a coaching move to every single NHL team, every single hockey team. Guys, that's straight up from Junior B all the way to the NHL that you're going to see pulling the goalie on the 5-on-4 with 1:40 to go down by a goal. Don't kid yourself. So to sit here and say, oh man, it was a 5-2 victory, we lost. No, you know what, 3-2. Realistically, in a game we didn't deserve to be in at most parts in that second period, that it could have gotten away from us, it didn't. That's the thing. Other than the Florida game, no game this season has totally gotten away from us. Even Minnesota 3-0, it got away from us early, but you check about how that game went. It all happened in the first, and then we just didn't get going the rest of the way home. So with that said, guys, let's discuss things here. The panic buttons that were hit, and they're barely panic buttons. That's the beautiful part, is because it comes back to those injuries I was talking about off the top. Today at practice, Josh Archibald and Riley Sheahan are taking full reps. They're looking to be lining up with Jujhar Khaira and, of course, well, reuniting that third line, grinding line gang that was so effective at times for us. Yeah, you can say the plus minus whatever. Don't forget, plus minus is also on the defenseman as well. I don't care who you blame, how you blame it, but it's a 5-man stat, not a 1-man stat. So you got to look at who else is out there. Unless you've got Adam Larsson from last year, who's negative 20 bajillion, whatever it was actually, and you look at some of the plays he was making, that's on Adam Larsson. However, guys, that's new season, new rules, and we're dealing with a different kind of mentality. And I'm trying to preach, guys, again, don't hit the Peter Chiarelli panic button. And seriously, if you're talking about Alexis Lafreniere already, guys, it is more delusional to talk about a top 10 pick for the Edmonton Oilers this season than it is delusional to talk about this team competing for the playoffs. Let's just get that straight, guys. We're 10-5-2. It's November 7th, okay? We are doing just fine. Way better than a lot of people expected us to. And to sit here and talk about a top 10 pick right now, guys, give your head a shake. The injuries are what they are, and we have to get a full roster out there, which we haven't been able to ice for a while. So, the Edmonton Oilers, in joining those moves to activate Sheahan and Archibald, you got to cut some forwards. And that, ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be Sam Gagner. It's going to be Tomas Jurco on waivers for purpose of assignment to the Condors, while they also assigned Colby Cave to the Bakersfield Condors. So Condors land, Bako, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, you're getting some reinforcements. Tomas Jurco, a Calder Cup champion, might I add, and Colby Cave gets to continue developing into, if he's going to have a spot on this Oilers team, what we need him to be. Obviously, you see what Colby Cave did in his first tour of duty with Condors. It was phenomenal. It was fantastic. It was great. But now, well, ladies and gentlemen, the Edmonton Oilers get to settle back into a more defined NHL roster. Because you know what? Tomas Jurco, you know what? He had those 2 points. It was fantastic to see him do something on the second line. But then all of a sudden the moves came and we had to sink him down into the bottom 6. And guess what? When the going got tough for Tomas Jurco got going away from production. And that's exactly what happened in that bottom 6. He all but disappeared. Now everybody's going to say, oh, but he looked fantastic last night. Do I need to remind you who he was playing with for most of last night in Nugent Hopkins and Neal, which, all of a sudden, yeah, there you go. That's why he's playing right, is because he's back in the top 6, and that's where we last saw him doing something this season. So now the question remains, when do we get to see Joakim Nygard back? Hopefully soon. Clefbaum had a maintenance day, so if you saw the lines and didn't see him out there, it's just a maintenance day. But it's good to see that, you know what, the Oilers are in a tough time in the schedule, right? They're starting to have a tougher go. We knew November was going to be tough. Now that we're 1-1-1 so far this month, right? We've got, 3 of a possible 6 points, so we're 500 in points department, which is just dandy considering you've got 14 games this month, and if we get 14 points, guys, we're more than on pace still for the playoffs after November. So the 500 mark, a very, very special mark for the Oilers this month. With that said, guys, this Oilers team, getting those guys back, it's going to be huge. Because there's something special in the locker room when you have the guys you intended to go to war with back in the locker room, going to war with you every single night, right? Yeah, I'm not sitting here blaming Colby Cave. I'm not sitting here blaming Tomas Jurco. I'm just saying, when the lineup was designed to have certain guys in it, and you've been missing them for a good chunk, things are going to happen, things are going to go wrong, and things aren't going to look as pretty. Now all of a sudden we get Josh Archibald, who's hopefully done with the injury front. We get Riley Sheahan, who's hopefully done with the injury front. And we get this team looking like something again. You know what? It's not time to hit that Peter Chiarelli panic button just quite yet, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's not. It's not, because Then all of a sudden what happens? We get Nygaard back in a couple of games. Then all of a sudden what's happening? We're getting Adam Larsson back. And then we're starting to talk, well, if we don't want to use Adam Larsson, we can trade Adam Larsson. And then we're talking reinforcements in another facet of our club. And this is where it gets absolutely fantastic. Now, what I need to tell you is, because I'm going to get comments about, ooh, the Oilers should claim this player, X player, on waivers today. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you why the Oilers cannot afford to claim any players on waivers. Right now we're into LTIR money. Right now we are above the cap. We cannot afford to spend LTIR money for a guy that's going to be here 2 weeks. Right? If we pick anyone up, we want him to be here all season. That's not going to work. That's again to the Peter Chiarelli panic button via Valentin Zykov last season. Now, the other question mark there as well is, you got to look at it this way. We've got 48 contracts on the NHL roster. Ladies and gentlemen, 48 contracts. That does not do well because, well, that gives us 2 contracts to play with for the entire season. So you go add another guy now, you've got 1 space to add a player down the line. So do you want to waste your time on these guys now in a situation in which you're probably going to lose them when you have to put them on waivers when it comes time to get Adam Larsson back into the lineup? Right, guys? That's the ugly part. So it's tough. Let me go get Elliot Friedman's waiver wire for today, because I believe it was the good one we've been waiting for here, as Elliot Friedman should have the waiver wire for today. Enjoy this week's edition. NHL Central, NHL update. Ooh, man, sprained high right ankle sprain for Alexander Steen, so that really sucks. And let me see. So there's Lintuniemi on waivers for the unconditional side of things for Carolina, and Marincin and Patan on waivers for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Guys, if you're going to sit here and tell me Nicholas Patan adds more value than anyone in our bottom 6 realistically, I don't know. I don't buy it, especially when we have to again put somebody on waivers at the end of 2 weeks when it's time to reinstate Adam Larsson from the LTIR. Anyways, that's my rant there. I'm going to leave you with all this to chew on, guys. Again, please, I hope you've taken the whole time to listen to the video. It's a whole fun-packed goodies episode. I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much. I am up on out of here.